and we can start to jump in here. If you have any questions during the call, feel free to use the chat or raise your hand, but we will have some time for breakouts and to answer the chat. We are going to be recording this, so you should see the little note to approve that you're fine with the meeting being recorded. So welcome everybody to our Circular Economy Grants application party. My name is Kira Higgins. I'm with the NextCycle Michigan team. So we're really excited to be launching this grant opportunity. EGLE's funding these grants so that we can support projects that all of you have, and I'm excited to hear about today. So we are going to kick things off with a poll. So depending on what you're interested in learning today, we'll probably use this to inform the breakout rooms later, but just to get an idea of what you're hoping to hear most about. Seems like project eligibility is a top one. Prep for the application, and you'll be able to, Yahang, my coworker is on, she'll be hosting the breakout for application prep. I'll be hosting a breakout to talk more about expenses and match, and then Matt Flechter and Elisa Seltzer will have breakouts with project eligibility. So hopefully based on what you came here today to learn, you can get all your questions answered.
Okay, I apologize. I am here and ready to go.
Great. So I think we've got most of us with the poll response answered. So pretty broad spread of what people are hoping to learn. So let's jump in and get all your questions answered. So we'll have a quick welcome from Matt Flechter. I'll introduce him momentarily, and then I'll go through some of the key elements regarding the grant application, eligible projects, types of expenses, match considerations, as well as some resources and tools that we have available for you before we go into more breakout discussions. So Matt Flechter has really been, leading the mission on NextCycle, and has pushed for these grants to happen too. So Matt, I will hand it off to you to give an introduction, and I can advance slides for you when you need.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks, Kira. And thank you all for coming to the application party. This is an exciting time for us at EGLE to begin to link up some of the funding opportunities that we have through the Renew Michigan Fund, along with the incubator and accelerator that we have with NextCycle. I'm Matt Flechter, Recycling Market Development Specialist, and have been working on growing this NextCycle opportunity for a number of years. And I love seeing so many names and people that have been sort of in that pipeline, as we call it sometimes, of getting you ready for funding opportunities as they come from a number of different locations. And this one here, the Circular Economy Grants, is an evolution of our previous market development grants. At EGLE, we know that we need a complete system of recovery to ensure that the materials that people put at their curb or at their loading docks find their way into new products made here in Michigan. And that's where you come in, your good ideas of how we can grow those markets, making sure that there's a strong end use and demand pull, making sure that the quality of material that's entering into the recycling system is appropriate for those end uses. And then also all the technology and new ideas and new ways to move materials into new products. That's what the circular economy grants are all about. Our recycling path forward looks like about $9 billion of total annual labor income, $33 billion of economic output. These are big numbers. These numbers help paint the picture of the importance of having a strong circular economy in Michigan. And as you know, if you're on this call, you know that there's job potential because you're hopefully, getting paid somewhere along the line to do this work. So yeah, next slide, please. I mentioned that it's a complete system that we're looking for. The circular economy grants focus mainly on making sure that we have that system of in markets successful, but we know that there's also collection gaps and processing gaps that are being filled. We have a number of other grant opportunities available to you. For example, just today there was a webinar with my colleagues at EGLE talking about organics, the organics infrastructure webinar to learn about how you can plug into that funding opportunity, as well as you have seen the infrastructure grants that we have available. But it's not just about that. We're lining you up for support through this funding, as well as connecting you with federal funding, some energy funding, some, there's funding for trucks and decarbonization of our transportation system, because as you know, moving materials is a major part of the recycling system. So making sure we have low carbon transportation systems and connecting you with those funding mechanisms is what we're all about. So next slide, please. So the circular economy grants we have $2.3 million available in funding this year. This is money from the Renew Michigan Fund, same pot of money that the infrastructure grants come from, and the previous market development grants. Our grant awards are between $50,000 and $250,000, and we're looking to address those gaps in best practice solutions. We're focused on leveraging that public and private investment, so making sure that we're attracting those dollars for these projects, along with leveraging those dollars that we're expending through the Renew Michigan Fund. We're looking for projects that can be scaled across the state. What that means is we're a pilot project that's just for one community or one unique situation is going to be difficult to get selected. But if you're able to scale it and talk about how that would support other communities, and replicated, so scaled and replicated. We're looking to benefit environmental justice communities and underserved communities, making sure that we have recycling opportunities for all residents and all business communities. Aligning with those climate priorities through the My Healthy Climate Plan, and those focus on recyclable materials and organics as well, and targeting the economic and environmental impact, those benefits that we all know well, that come from a circular economy and managing materials differently than disposing of them. So next slide, please. So we're looking for, I want to highlight these circular economy grants are really focused in on the first part of the story is the end use. So the supply chains, there's recycled contents, content products, making sure that there's material innovations, moving materials into new uses, focusing on organic material. We're looking at novel technologies, robots. And then this is also a spot where we're aligning our work with some of the upstream solution. What that means is the waste prevention activities that go along with materials management. So thinking about how your project could reduce, but that's not necessarily required in these projects that are going to be selected. The number one is to make sure that we're growing those end markets and creating that supply chain for end use manufacturers. Next slide, please.
Yeah, and I can add on here too, Matt, and kind of fill in for the grant details, but these categories aren't necessarily that your project has to be a perfect fit for them, but to Matt's point on, it really is around, are we getting material captured and able to go into new places and be utilized, whether that's going to take, some supply chain shifts and how we aggregate material, how it's, exchanged between businesses, and again, has that kind of underlying economic sustainability so that these projects can be successful long term. So thanks for the initial intro, Matt. And did you have anything else to add here?
Yeah, I think that's just to kind of finish off my portion of this. I think we're pretty lucky in Michigan to have these opportunities and to have such a strong team at EGLE, the staff, at EGLE, as well as our partners through Resource Recycling Systems, the NextCycle team working with Centropolis Accelerator, and the Michigan Recycling Coalition. I mean, we've got the right people working on this, and all of you on this call, seeing these opportunities, we're getting noticed around the country, and it's a lot because of your work, bringing your good ideas, looking to leverage those funds, investing your own dollars in this system. And so for that, we thank you and look forward to the next step.
Great. And yeah, really across of all these different project types too, we're recognizing that some of you may be at different scales and readiness levels. So some of you may be doing more earlier stage work just to sort out like research and development of a new technology that could help recover more materials to, really being scaling an operation that works and that we need those solutions to fill some of the gaps that Matt touched on. So just in terms of, what can this grant cover? In addition to really having that, underlying like has to work with materials and making sure we're getting them captured, but also that implementation side of real actionable things related to these projects, whether that's purchasing equipment and supplies to help with the operations or doing some of the research and testing that's going to help validate things, the marketing and promotion that aligns with that project. So if you may need to travel for a workshop to make sure that you're engaging your target audience or engaging different partners to help with, upstream or downstream feedstocks to your project, make sure you build that into your budget and really work towards the success metrics of, are you recovering the material? Are you able to create jobs through this? Are you able to really have impact in your community? Some of the things not covered in the grant would be more of the typical operating activities to a project or business. So like the grant's not designed to cover salaries or to purchase rental property or provide PTO or similar time or, paid business tax or kind of anything that goes with your day-to-day operations aren't intended as the scope. So the grant's really designed to support a specific project and effort that you need to do to help recover more material or avoid wasted material. We have, I'll get into match momentarily, but we did build in some of the no items for grant funds you can use in-kind match for or cash match for. So if you do need property to continue to scale your operations, your match can go towards that initial contribution. So there are some discrepancies here that, I'm always happy to be available to talk through, but I think the really important point here is just having all of the expenses align with the core project goals. And we've designed the different expenditure types around caps. So the total grant amount that can be requested is $250,000, which some equipment is pretty expensive. So it's probably going to fill that full grant amount. But research and testing, we anticipate typically earlier stage projects and likely lower budgets. So that kind of has a cap within that. Can you stack these? Absolutely. So if you have an initial phase of research and testing, that's, $50,000, and then you need to get the equipment to, go towards that, or if that equipment helps with your research and testing, you can mix and match these. But we do have caps just to prioritize the activities around implementation of some of these projects. And with match, this is new for most grants, but we did try to build in some tiers so that, folks that are less able to provide a match won't be held to the same expectations of a match. So Tier 4 is really open to small nonprofits, small public entities, folks that are in underserved regions. We're defining that aligning with hub zones based on the Small Business Administration and EGLE's environmental justice map that's published. So we do have some more detail that we're publishing to provide guidance on this, but folks in Tier 4 don't have any match for up to that $50,000 grant award. And then we tier up from there. So really based around business size and if there are any special considerations. So we will be publishing within the next week a more detailed matrix so that you can really check, okay, I'm a public entity with, over 10,000 households, and I'm, a tribal entity as well. So like that's a 10% match. Or if it's a small business of 1 to 15 employees in an underserved region, again, a 10% match. So this will be published with some additional detail so that you can really see where you're going to land in terms of the match expectations. And just regarding match, it is expected to be all cash contributions, so no in-kind salaries or expenses that go beyond your project scope. So it really needs to align with the project itself. Any of the types of expenses allowed for the grant funds can be allowed as match. I had already mentioned a few additional ones that we included as match, the property, as well as some of the like memberships or subscriptions. These don't typically get covered by grant funds, but we are allowing it for match. And then travel and related expenses, as long as it aligns with your project, that can also count as match. So always happy to talk through those details, and as you're prepping your budget, and Yahang will also be hosting a breakout room for work plan scoping, which will tie into your expenses that you'll want to have related. But as you're preparing your grant, you'll definitely want to be aware of the selection criteria. So EGLE, Matt and a selection panel at EGLE will be reviewing all of the applications and making selections of 20 projects. And they're really going to be looking at value proposition, like, is this project filling a need in Michigan? Is it addressing material? Looking at the market and financial viability to see, is it able to be economically sustainable? Does it have an opportunity in the market to capture feedstock, but also get a return on that? In terms of equity potential in the community that's impacted, the job served, making sure that there's also not negative impacts on a community, especially if it's a new facility going into an underserved area. Like, is that facility benefiting the community? Is it impacting the air or water? Is it hiring local people? So really those holistic impacts that can be demonstrated through the narrative of the project. So recovery of materials and circular economy, of course, aligns with our environmental and climate goals. So being able to demonstrate through a material diversion how much greenhouse gas equivalent you're able to reduce or capture are great metrics to cover. And then demonstrating also that you have the right team in place, that you have the right partners, showing success and demonstrating that, oh, we've proved these things out before. We know we have a strong team, are all going to be important things to cover. And then probably one of the most important parts of a grant application as you're preparing them, I think, will be the work plan and budget. And this is really where it's important to be concise and really direct to what activities in your project tie to your budget and why does that matter in the success of you doing it. So some just high level tips. I mean, I encourage being just clear, concise, and relevant. So no need to overly word the work plan. We have some narrative fields in the application for that, but the work plan is really designed to be pretty clear tasks and milestones of, we need to accomplish these things to make this project happen, and making sure that it's pretty chronological and that you assign some like dates and timeline to it. Demonstrating that detail is really going to show that, yes, we're ready to go when we get these grant funds. And again, just going back to that implementation focus. So, and when you're connecting the work plan to the budget, really having clear, task 1 of your work plan ties to these 4 budget line items, and having that connection to demonstrate the really clear connection of what project milestones need those grant funds. And then if you're selected, we're going to have 20 projects selected, and at that point you'll start the grant agreement process, and that may include some work plan refinements or negotiations. So we anticipate those agreement periods being in October. So that's when you'd expect notification on the grant and start those negotiations. And then projects a lot of these implementation focused projects are longer term. So we're anticipating a 16 to 18 month grant period. You may finish sooner, you may have a shorter timeline, but that's really the max window that we anticipate projects to be closed out by. And during that period, we'll have quarterly reports. The grant is reimbursement based, so submitting reimbursements on a regular basis with the anticipated proof of expenditures. And then regular progress check-ins, these less formal, but just a subject matter expert to connect with you to see, is your project on track? Are there changes that may be happening? And being able to pivot as needed, all leading up to a final project report, and ideally having a lot of success stories to demonstrate from your work. Just regarding the reimbursement of funds, by default, all of the grants will go reimbursement based, and the grantee will really go through. Once you get your grant agreement in place, you'll purchase all of the expense items outlined in your budget that gets agreed upon, and then submit those for reimbursement. And documentation for that may be a purchase receipt, a paid invoice, visual proof, just to show that, yes, we purchased this. Yes, it's relevant to what we said we would. We recognize that funds may not be fluid for everyone. So we do have a process to process advanced funds under unique circumstances. So this is something that if you're selected for the grant, you would bring up during the grant agreement phase of like, I'm going to need advanced funds. And we'll go through and negotiate that with folks, but up to $20,000 can be advanced at one time. But once that's spent, we can process another $20,000 if that's the need for the project. So we're trying to build in that flexibility, but by default, the majority of grants will be reimbursement based. And then in terms of the application, it is an online portal. It's a shared profile with some of the other online portals that NextCycle Michigan utilizes, and each application shows up as a different card, so to say. And you'll utilize this online portal not just for the initial application, but if your grant's selected, referring back to this portal for uploading your grant agreement, for submitting your reimbursement reports, for submitting the final report. So the online portal will be pretty much your best friend throughout the process. And just in terms of timeline, I mentioned a few of these dates. As you know, applications are open, and we'll be closing not July 24th. Oh, that's the application party today. So you're already up to speed on where we're at. We'll close applications August 19th. So it's 3 weeks away or so. So now's the time to definitely be preparing your applications, networking with partners, and then August, September will be the review period so that you'll get notification in October about your grant, if it's been selected or not. And if it's not, then we're here to help navigate next steps too. So just a few resources. I mean, in addition to our staff, there's data resources. So some of the gaps that Matt was talking about, we have some published maps, gap analysis, and data that can help back up and reinforce your why statement, but also provide some data for your application to help make the case. The EDA Build a Scale program can also be a great resource to get some technical support for potential data curation or other needs to really just help refine what you're doing and be ready for funding. A lot of this content that I've covered today is in our application packet. So that has details of the timeline, links to the online portal, links to template work plan and budget documents, as well as some of the detail regarding match and eligible expenses. And that matrix I showed for the match expectations will be publishing supplemental information. And I'm also always available to chat, and my link is published on our webpage too for the grant, so you can schedule office hours with me in real time so that we can chat through your specific project. And there are a lot of opportunities out there. This is just a small group, but whether or not this grant's the right fit for you, probably, but there's also other resources out there that could be a fit. EGLE Organics Infrastructure grants are live right now for applications. So most of the organics projects are likely going to be a good fit there. That's actually due the 28th, not the 19th. EGLE has a scrapped hire program, e-waste program. NextCycle has our rolling applications for build to scale technical support. And then we anticipate opening up seed grants in the fall. So these are all opportunities that exist to potentially support your projects, help get them funded, help get the right technical support. So I encourage exploring those as well. But on that note, it would be great to hear from all of you and go into discussion. So we'll go into, I think, 4 different breakout rooms based on how many folks we have. And that'll be your time to ask specific questions, listen to what other folks are asking questions about, because you may have some shared feedback, and then feel free to bounce between the rooms. So we'll have Matt and Elisa hosting some breakouts just around project eligibility. So that's your opportunity to bring up, here's my idea, does it fit in this grant? And they can help talk through that with you. I'll be hosting the breakout room for expenses or match questions, whether or not an expense is eligible or not eligible, what match you may fit into. And then Yahang will be hosting a breakout for preparing your application, whether that's using the online portal or even talking through setting up an effective work plan and budget. So you should see the breakout rooms popping up. Bridget, oh, nice. So Bridget's just launched the breakout room. So you'll have to, I believe, scroll towards the bottom, but you can self-select which breakout room you would like to join. And towards the end, we'll come back as a group. So.
Hey, so it's like, I'm sorry, it's like 2 breakout rooms that I really need to attend, but I can't go to both. Will everything be recorded?
So, yeah, if the breakout room leads can press record, try to do that. I think we've had challenges with that in the past, but Tamara, I'd encourage like joining the first room and getting your questions answered and hopping to the next one. We'll have about half an hour for discussion.
My name is Yahang. I am a consultant with RS, and I'm working with the NextCycle team to work on a lot of our programs, including the accelerator, the partnership, as well as helping administer the circular economy grant application process. So I wonder, folks who are in this breakout room, if you already have a project in mind, what kind of questions do you have in terms of preparing for your application? Hi, Delia.
Hey, Yahan.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going okay. I just had to step out. I was having lunch, so.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to unmute themselves and start with a question. And as the questions come and go, I will potentially show the screen and walk everyone through the portal if needed, or the budget template, as well as the work plan template.
I guess I can start.
Sure.
So I don't know if it's more so a question of like, I don't know how to phrase it, but this is it. So I'm having a hard time getting information like on where to take the recycling, right? Like I've been given some places to contact, but when I call them to like try to get a quote or like just to get a number to have some kind of estimate of what the cost would be, it's like they're holding on to that information. Like, I mean, so when you run into situations like that where they're not very willing to give you information that you'll need for your grant application, what do we do?
That's a really good question, Delia. I mean, of course. So just to lay the background here, right? We are, as NextCycle itself, we're not going to be selecting any of the applications. EGLE will have the final say, and they will have a review panel. But from experiences, right? Like imagine they're seeing a whole pile of applications indicating who the partners are, what kind of information are presented in your application. And that just demonstrate your familiarity with the market as well as your readiness to go. I mean, one thing I was thinking, Delia, for your case, potentially is you can have that listed under research, data collection, and research analysis. And part of your outline or potential deliverable will be have a very clear understanding of which partner will be getting on board with your project. So potentially that could be a solution there. But like as I mentioned, or as Kira has mentioned, you definitely want to showcase that you have done a lot of your market research already, and that this being the roadblock or being, you know, some milestone you can't achieve without getting a lot of investment or money or financial support to achieve it. So hopefully that helps with some inspirations.
Yeah, it kind of put it in perspective.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Mohammed. I know if Carlos, Robert, Colin, or Andy, anyone else have any questions, you want to jump in?
Hi, I have a quick question.
Hi.
I'm with People First Economy. We work with a couple hundred businesses around the state of Michigan, around a lot of sustainability, social environmental impact. And I guess I'm stuck on the build to scale technical assistant. Is that a grant opportunity for folks like us to support, or is that a service that NextCycle? Because now I'm wondering if I should be doing a different application as opposed to considering this one for the type of work that we're doing.
Good question.
Might be able to take that as well. So I with Centropolis, and I actually am a program manager on the EDA Build to Scale Technical Assistance.
Perfect.
So that grant somewhat aligns with this. We cannot do any capital expense on that grant, but we can help with like strategic planning and help with your like application to this grant, but not necessarily they're not necessarily the same by any stretch of the imagination. I could go into a full pitch, but it might not be the time.
No. I get it. With what you say, you answered everything I need to know. So then my actual question, because we're doing something similar, essentially, just from a different lens.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, one of our programs is called Local First, and so the big idea is supply chain local, buy local, whether you're a big corporation or a small one. And if it was creating an initiative, which we've done education on it before, but going deeper into creating a recycling initiative within our networks. So where, for example, we have in our network Wormies, which I know NextCycle may have done some work with them in the past,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So a program that's connecting member businesses to existing businesses or organizations who are engaging in the recycling ecosystems across the state. Would that be something, a campaign, a material? I guess I'm not articulating well, and this is what happens when I'm in here instead of the program director who actually manages the program.
Yeah. So I will recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me send you the link of the application packet, and it has very now I'm trying to think, if I send the link here, is that to our room or to the main room? Hold on. Can you
I have it. Don't worry, I have it.
Okay.
I pulled it up.
So yeah, and I will say it's it depends on which bucket, right? Is that alliance or coalition? Is that part of, you know, advancing our supply chain in the recycling or circular economy, or is it a more upstream innovations, which is, you know, focus on repair, remanufacturing, reuse? It depends on what the specific criteria I guess this initiative is going to entail, and that could be a question later on if you want to jump into the eligibility breakout room. I believe Matt Flechter there will be in a better position to answer it. I think it really is going to depend on
that guide is what I needed. Thank you.
Perfect. Yep.
Let me jump in the other room just to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Has anyone got a chance to go onto the portal and create a profile yet?
Yeah, I actually started the application, so I really like the setup. I like the template that's in there for the budget and the work.
Yeah, and if the template is something people are interested in diving more into, and we can answer questions there too. I know there was also a budget template in Excel format, depending on your specific percentage on the match. You can play with the formula and see what comes out, in terms of your matching funding amount, as well as requested grant amount and what amounts to your total budget. And let's see if I'll open up to the room to see if there are any questions. If not, I will go ahead and share the screen.
I do have one quick question.
Hi.
This is Mohammed. So I think I know the answer, but I just want to clarify. In order to apply for the grant, we're still in the early stage with our ideas. Do I have to have a business registered with the state first and get the, federal tax ID and everything registered in order to apply for the grant or the program?
I believe the answer is going to be yes, although I
Okay.
don't have that listed out anywhere in the application. But for you to qualify for matching, you will need to identify either as a for-profit business operation or nonprofit or a public entity. So likely the answer is going to be yes. But are you currently registered as an entity, or is that what you're planning?
Not yet. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what we're planning to.
Gotcha.
And that's why I want to make sure that before we submit the application, do I need to register that, complete that first in order to apply for the program?
There is, however, an other category. I'm looking at the organization type, right? We have for-profit. You can be an early stage, but ideally it's going to be a registered entity, nonprofit, university, local government, but there's an other, fill in the blank. So
Okay.
maybe this is something I will double check with my team to make sure, because really the tricky thing here is you will want to receive grant funding from the state. And a lot of times you will need a lot of, documentations or verification.
Exactly.
Eligibility.
Okay.
So long term is probably a better decision or better way.
Yeah, definitely. But main thing I would just want to get clarification in order to
Yeah.
apply. Do I
Yeah.
have to have that part of the requirement or not?
Yep, for sure. I will follow up with my team to triple check, though I think the
Okay.
answer will be yes, and I will give you a response afterwards, follow up.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I had a question. So the project that we're intending to apply for the grant funding is a reusable containers project. So I'm with Perpetual, and we've been working with the City of Ann Arbor and zerowaste.org and RAA to do a system design for reusable foodware. Really the challenge in terms of defining the project budget, it just comes down to timing, in the sense that the project is designed to have an RFP released later this year, and that will award the operators of the system and define the exact costs of things in the system. However, this grant opportunity is such a good fit for the project, and it's great to have kind of funds in hand to be able to pay for those things once we, have identified who to procure the equipment from.
Yeah.
Perpetual is really fortunate to have received quotes for different types of equipment from the other cities that we work in. So we have a level of awareness of like how much a return bin costs. And so in our budget, we're basically intending to lead with those as the figures. And so, yeah, I guess that's kind of my question. Like, we don't yet have the exact model and exact specification of what we're going to order. However, we have an awareness of the market generally and what very likely price points are. Is that acceptable? And will that be seen as weaker or stronger is kind of what I'm interested in understanding.
Yeah, good question, Andy. And glad to hear the project about reusable containers. And
yeah.
Really in the budget template here, let me just, maybe I'll share my screen for everyone as a good chance to. So can you see my screen now?
I can.
Okay. I have a test draft, basically a draft template here to answer your question. As long as I believe if you have a good understanding, especially you've already had quotes from these suppliers and know a rough range of how much these equipments are going to cost, and you have those listed in there, right? In your
Exactly.
brief discussion of expense, you can always say this is a predetermined rate from whatever suppliers we'll be likely going to be working with. And for that, I guess you probably want to go from the higher end of the quotes you've received to build in some buffer. But in terms of giving you extra score, I don't think that point really matter depending on how firm you get it from your supplier. So I think as long as you have a rough idea, you can present it in your work plan, which is something that looks like this. It really comes down to how you word your tasks and your project metrics and project deliverables in your work plan, as well as, you know, giving some details in the brief description of your expense. As long as you can tell the story and prove somewhat that you have gone out there and understand the market and gain some level of understanding, I think that should be sufficient.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Really, the scoring, again, let's go back to, you know, what gives particular applications a higher scoring than others. You got to go back to the eligibility, the criteria, right? Let me go to that section, which are you demonstrating your environmental impact well enough with clear and specific metrics presented, your goals, your equity impact. Are you bringing a lot of, you know, good outcome and, you know, for those underserved communities, economic impact, job creation, right? Livable wages, as well as your geographic impact. Are you covering all of the regions or particular regions in Michigan that could yield extra, you know, outcome or impacts in all these different fronts? So hi, everyone. Didn't see a lot of folks enter the room. I hope that helps, Andy.
Yeah, no, I think hearing you confirm that that's like a good level of specificity for this is helpful. I guess one quick tag on, I know that Matt spoke about, you know, it being able to be scaled. So obviously, you know, our project has a geographic scope, right? It's only focused on Ann Arbor, but there's very much an intentionality around it being intentionally designed to be able to scale.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess just emphasizing that will be important in our application versus maybe something that's intended to cover the whole state.
Likely, yes. And you will want to maybe, I will say, lay out, you know, if you describe this as your phase 1 project, then potentially, ideally, down the road, how do you scale it as that can yield a larger impact? This can be used as a model that other regions in Michigan could easily replicate and, you know, borrow the format, borrow the model, things like that. I think if you indicate that kind of impact, it really builds that, you know, outlook, paint the picture for the reviewers.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? I guess that's a really good point that Andy brought up, and maybe I'll re-emphasize is when you are building in your work plan and describing, or actually your application, you'll be, oh, I stopped sharing my screen. Hold on. So in your application, once you get here and set up your profile, there you go. Once you set up your profile and click into the grant portal here, you will see the very specific questions being asked here, you know, asking about your detailed project brief. What are you planning to do with this project? You know, how will this project bring out this impact as you were talking about, right? And then detailing out in these environmental equity, economic impact potentials with very clear metrics. I think when you are able to very cleanly and concisely build your timeline, like Kira was saying, either chronic, as it goes on, but also, you know, think about how many phases, think about how you could plan your project out into a different scaled sizable portion of the project down the road. We can think about a 3-year plan, even a 5-year plan. The implementation of your project is going to be 16 to 18 months, but the impact could be talked about here as another way of demonstrating your project potential.
So, Young, so
Yep.
and listening to you talk about this, it'd be key that when you're doing your work plan, that your budget, shucks. Sorry about that. Am I bad? Did I get cut off?
I can hear you.
Okay. So in doing this, so your work plan and budget, they should pretty much go hand in hand. So if you're looking at my budget and you're looking at, the things that I'm trying to get funded for, it should match up with that work plan at some point, right? So like you should be able to, like, I guess, get a clear picture from the two, like on what's going on with this project.
So the everything will be documented in these three sources of information. The first one will be your application, which you can see there's a line asking for your total grant request. That number should match up with this number in your Excel template.
Okay.
And as you were, working on your work plan, this one is more detailing out how you're going to carry out these budget under what kind of task arrangement and what kind of milestone or timeline. So this one is less focused on the financial breakout, more on the detailed work planning and, how are you planning to accomplish these milestones, etc. So different emphasis in each document, but your application along with your budget template as well as your work plan will be an overall picture when the reviewers go through your application and give a score.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Hi, Stefan. I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, hi
Hello.
there. So I'm starting a business that requires the building of a prototype.
Okay.
And this grant would be just perfect for funding the fabrication and testing of that prototype.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the only source of funding that we are pursuing. And if we were, I'm wondering about the focus of the application. If I write the application saying, "Hey, we're going to use these funds to fabricate and test the prototype," and in the meanwhile, if fate smiles kindly upon me and I get the funding through other sources, and we start going using those sources, if I were to be granted this grant, well, I've now already covered the expenses that I said I was going to use it for through other means. Is there a way to redirect it for the next step beyond the prototype, or should I include those next steps in the application? Or, I'm just curious as to, should I focus on the next step or the next couple of steps?
That's a lot of hypotheses. And
I know. I'm just planning out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's worth noting in your application where maybe in your financial, let me see here, project overview, project brief, project plan, there is a project viability, right? When you look at financial viability and market potential, it may be worth pointing out that though in this application, you currently want to focus on the prototype testing or developing, but, as what you were mentioning, like there are several other steps down the road that you may move on towards. And if you're able to complete your testing for the prototype on a way smaller scale of budget of what you have gotten, yeah, I think there's definitely room for a refined work plan and a refined scope of what that may entail.
Okay.
I think there will be a lot of conversation. It's going to be a back and forth development and very engaging process. It's not going to be you apply, you get the grant, and that's it. There's going to be a lot of verifications, and let's check on the work plan and see if that's the final version. So there'll be room for you to go in there and refine.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Good questions, folks. Anyone else?
Oh, I have one. This is Delia again.
Hi, Delia.
So in talking about partners, right?
Yeah.
So theoretically, I mean, outside of like board members or something like that, I'm really a team of one, right? So in discussing partners or potential partners, how do you, because I know that's really looked up on for this grant and a lot of grant opportunities out there. So how do I kind of build that up where, I mean, I'm gonna tell the truth about it, but it's kind of like, you know, I don't have this huge team of people that I'm really working with.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess just figuring out how to kind of really address that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can totally utilize this opportunity as a chance to partner up with someone to ask for a larger size of the grant as well, right? Because for Delia, for your case, I don't think there's any match requirement. It's going to be a 0% because you're a nonprofit. And if there are partners, let's say, happens to be someone who can step in and potentially support your pilot with a portion of investment in cash, and together you can ask for, you know, a larger scale of grant based on what they contributed, even though you don't have a match requirement. I think this can be an opportunity for you to, you know, kind of go around and propose to folks and be like, hey, do you want to apply for this together and become a partner on this? I do believe for folks who are wondering, we kind of, you will see a section here, how many letters of support do you have? They don't have to be, you can be the main applicator or application or a grant, I guess, person who's applying, but you can have up to, I don't think there's a cap, sorry. I was gonna say there's a cap, but you could have as many letter of support as you want. But Delia, we can meet more with the current scope of NextCycle to discover how we can engage more partners for your project, especially on the west side.
Okay, yeah, because I have been reaching out, and I mean, I'm getting positive responses, but sometimes when it comes down to actual, you know, let's do it and let's get it in writing, that's when things kind of fall apart sometimes.
Right. Well, one tip that people have gained success in the past is you provide a draft support letter, right, as a baseline for them to go in there and tweak and refine and sign. You kind of save some work for them. A lot of times people are just busy and they don't have time to start something from anew. And if you present them with a letter and if they're interested, matter of signing a name, it's sometimes easier. Just.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to be working on today. So we're on the same page. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions related to their applications? I guess if you have any projects that you would love to share with folks, that'll be welcome too. Where things stand with your projects, and are you excited to apply?
Yes.
Hi, Chetan. I don't know if I say your name right. Is it Chetan?
Yes, Chetan. Yeah.
Chetan, what project are you working on?
So we are trying to use AI and like to do the sorting basically. So that's our objective, and reduce the contamination like in the trash bins itself from the source.
Oh,
So
wait. Did we meet at the showcase?
yes, we did.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Sorry, I recognize face more than names.
Yeah, no problem. I can switch on my video. Okay. Yeah.
Good to see
So
you again.
yes, so like we got a lot of motivation after the showcase, and now I think we are very close. So like this grant and this support will help us. We want to build a proof of concept.
Mhm.
So that needs some funds, and I think that's what we are we are here for, to
Yeah.
understand how we can get support from.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we're going to be kicked out in a minute here. So if you have any more questions, guys, feel free to follow up with me or anyone in our team. We'll be sure to happy to answer your questions there.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
thank you.
It was really helpful.
Sure thing. Thanks, Delia. Talk to you later.
Welcome, everyone. So you just heard a mouthful from Kira laying it out. And as you heard, the recording will be shared from what you've already heard later today on our YouTube channel. And this is being recorded as well. So that'll all be available. For those who don't know, I'm Elisa Seltzer. I'm a senior consultant RS and leading the NextCycle Michigan project for EGLE. And I'm really glad to see you all here. We all know you've been waiting to hear, Matt's market development grants are very, very popular, and they are now folded under the NextCycle umbrella, and very excited that you all are here and ready to jump in. So glad to start taking questions. So I would say maybe just unmute yourself and really quick introduction who you are, and then question.
Yeah, I can jump in here. I typed my question out in the previous part of the session. So I'm Ezra Hedis. I'm a member of the new business innovation team at Steelcase Office Furniture, and we're kind of exploring and playing around with remanufacturing lately. And so I'm my question that I had was related to, is this mainly just end of life type projects, or are we also looking at end of use or extended use projects?
I'll take that one, Elisa. That's okay. Yes, this is that extending life, refurbishing, rebuilding, reselling fits into this.
Okay.
In general, what we have with our market development grants previously was a real strong focus on end of life, and we're seeing a lot of leading edge technologies coming forward with a need to look at that refurbishment, reuse. A lot of those came out of the NextCycle teams as well. My crystal ball says we're going to be evolving this even bigger, where there would be something that would be targeted specifically at upstream solutions, meaning prevention. But to answer your question very clearly, yes, that does fit, and we will be evaluating those for potential funding.
Is there necessarily a preference between the two categories, end of life and extension of life?
Is there a preference? I'll tell you, I mean, you're getting into a little bit of sort of internal politics, but the reason that is, we have goals that we need to meet. We need to increase our recycling rate. We need to make sure there's access to recycling opportunities. And many of those ways that we're doing that is we're creating that demand pull, end of life, where's it going? Kind of eliminating some of those questions that are right there in place for how the recycling system works. Our program is evolving. We know that there's a need for upstream solutions. So hopefully that's not too much of a political answer, but the answer is, yeah, we definitely know that it's both.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Nan Happen. My name is Corey Thompson, and I'm the operations manager at Mama Suds. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Mama Suds is in Goodrich, Michigan, and we make all natural soap products. a lot of organic ingredients going into this, but the project that we're looking at, and so it's not inside the stream of recycling, but what it is I'm also the owner of a refillery locally. So we're trying to encourage people to use their own reuse containers. So we're trying to keep containers from having to be made and going into the landfill by just letting people refill and reuse the same containers. But I'm working with a company that's in Boston, Massachusetts, that has these vending machines that can do the refilling process. And we're looking to partner with them from our standpoint to try to get these machines accessible in university dorms, apartments, wherever we can, so that people can have access to be able to reuse containers, so that we're slowing that down, that aspect of things going into the landfills and even going for recycling at this point. So I don't know if that's, I guess my question is that fitting in with what this is looking for? Because I feel like you're trying to like deal with things right inside the recycling stream, and we're kind of on the outside edge of that.
Yeah.
So what is
Boy,
your,
those
what do you think?
those two questions back to back. I'll take that one again. Lisa, maybe you could add to what you're.
Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to what I was saying a second ago, there's two ways that you can reduce or increase your recycling rate. You can increase your recycling rate by making sure that that soap bottle gets turned into a new product, or you can reduce the amount that's going to landfill by not having that bottle go there in the first place. So either way, we're increasing our recycling rate. So hopefully that makes, so if you're doing waste prevention, we're not creating as much waste. That is also increasing our recycling rate, because the way that we calculate a recycling rate is we take the total amount that's recycled and composted and divide that by the total amount that's recycled, composted, and disposed. So if we reduce the amount that's disposed, we're actually increasing our recycling rate. So we get that, we know that, and I'm excited to see this vending machine. So I'm looking forward to reading your application.
Okay, thank you. I think Chethan is next, and then I've got Phil, Paul, and Cole waiting. So hands up is helpful. Chethan, you're up.
Hi, hello everyone. So my name is Chetan Tembad. I'm trying to work on a project for a organization called Sort Trash. So we are just two people right now, and our objective is to use advanced technology like AI and image processing to come up with a solution that can easily sort recyclable with non-recyclables and like reduce the contamination for recyclers. So that's our objective. But as I was telling, we are two people and we are very small. We are just starting, and our intention is to register the business yet in Michigan. So like if we have all the theoretical inputs done, so with that, can we apply, and will this be eligible for the grant? So that was my question.
I'll jump in unless you want to, Matt.
Or
So I would say, I mean, early stage is allowed. It depends how early. There could be such a thing as too early, but there is a category for research and testing. And if that's where you fall, you know, the amounts you can request are lower than for equipment and supplies. So I think that, you know, taking a closer look at that in the application packet will probably give you a good idea.
For sure. I want to add to that. I was right along the same line. So Chethan, we met at the showcase, right?
Yes.
So glad you're here. That was for the rest of you on this call. You know, those opportunities to get in a room together at those NextCycle showcases, put those on when you see them come across, put those on your calendar and show up and have some snacks, and because it's just nice to talk, because I have a better understanding about where your project is because of that conversation, and Elisa is 100% right. You're going to get there, and we're going to help you get to that next stage, and that's one of the reasons why we have that $50,000. I think it's $50,000 if I remember right. R&D category, because we didn't want to. Traditionally, a lot of times we have a hard time investing in projects that are too early stage because but that's why we have that category. So yeah, that would almost definitely, based on our conversation, be where you want to target your application.
Yes, sir. Understood. Thank you so much. Yep.
Bill.
Hi, hello.
Yep.
Hi, Phil.
Good to see you, Eliza, and Matt as well. My name is Phil Carter, Business Director of Partridge Creek Compost. So Matt, I heard you mention the EGLE Organics infrastructure webinar. I was on that one earlier today.
Wonderful.
In short, my question is, can we apply for both of these?
Yeah.
And well,
So
I'll ask that and just
yeah, let me answer that one. Yes, you can. It's gonna be up to us to figure out where to best fit you. I think it would be a very, very unlikely scenario, almost I can probably say completely unlikely scenario that in this round that we would be funding both um, under both categories. It would have to be a completely separate project. And that's one of the things that we're going to have our eyes on, because that's something that would clearly not be acceptable. Hopefully it's clearly not acceptable to use this grant for match for the other grant. It's the same funding.
No, I'm not looking to
source.
match them both. Our two big needs right now are a trommel that can handle our thermal compost. We have a little, kind of hand-built trommel that works well for vermicompost at the smaller scale. We rented one from the city of Ishpeming this year. It worked great. We've kind of, gone through our proof of concept. The city's now selling theirs. They want to sell it in August, so I think that's probably sooner than we can raise $200,000 to find that. But the new ones are pretty comparable in price to the one that the city is selling. And then we also are in need of a smaller collection vehicle for residential stops. My thought was to apply for the organics infrastructure grant for the collection vehicle and this one for the trommel, but it sounds like maybe we should put the same application in on both, and whatever we're a better fit for, that's the one we're more likely to get funding for both of those things from.
So I appreciate you bringing this to our attention. We will huddle up and I think the best way, because we have the office hours, we have some time. We will likely be directing you one way or the other. But for any of you that are listening to this that are wondering, yeah, go ahead. Of course, apply. We'll figure out where your best fit. Don't. And that's on us and our team to make sure that we're supporting you in that way. That's going to best get your project to the stage that it needs to get to. So that was
okay. So you would recommend
that was an answer. Yes, apply for both. But I think for you in particular, Phil, we can give you some additional guidance and figure out where we can steer you to make it more worthwhile for your time. So we'll get back to you on that one, Phil. And then for the rest of the team, yes, apply to both.
Okay.
Okay, Paul, up next.
Yeah, thanks, Eliza and Matt. Nice to see you. I'm Paul Gruber at Fresh Coast Climate Solutions. We've got one, possibly two clients that want to go after this, and we're helping those partners with their applications. So one person, Amika Adams at So Needed Journey, is interested in applying for this, and I think she's already chatted with Kira. I just wanted to understand eligibility for some ideas we've been tossing around. Amika produces handbags with recycled leather, plastics, and other materials that would go to landfill. So it's a great diversion play, and increase in recycled content or upcycled content. I'm trying to understand for the project categories. It seems like materials would be covered, planning, some marketing potentially to put together the right partners. She has some gaps in her supply chain she'd like to fill. So that's my first question. Would those sort of expenses for this a recycled product be applicable or eligible for this project? Is this grant funding?
I would say yes. I mean, if you're keeping materials from landfill and creating an end market solution, absolutely eligible. I think what you'll want to look at as it gets scored against other projects is level of impact compared to other opportunities that EGLE will be weighing. But in terms of, following the eligibility requirements in the categories, anything that's eligible could go towards Amika's project. Absolutely.
Okay. And then what about the manufacture of a pilot run or a pilot batch of products? That's where it starts to get a little gray, it seems like, since labor is not covered, but you could do contracted services. She wants to do more than just plan for reducing disposal of these sort of materials. She'd really like to be producing product and diverting and then scaling, right? So how do I think about that?
I'll jump in, Elisa. Yeah, contracted services would be included in that. And this is as you get your budget and your timeline and your project built out, having a conversation, maybe going an office hour and figuring out what type of documentation you're going to need to build a good project. That's probably what I'm hearing. That's going to be a good approach to figure out what you're getting yourself into what she's getting herself into,
right,
as far as documentation and reporting. And then this is for everybody, and this is going to be highly competitive. So having measurable impacts, hitting on those equity and climate outcomes of the grant, making sure that you're looking at the total volume of material and comparing that to the current state of not having the grant, or what wouldn't happen if the grant wasn't awarded. And being able to articulate those increases is going to be really important. And that's the same for any grant, period. I mean, it's not just this grant. That project, is a pretty awesome project, and we love working, with So Needed Journey and being a NextCycle team. And getting that additional support and figuring out what type of documentation and is needed is going to be, what we're all about here at NextCycle, providing that additional, that level of curated sitting down, figuring out what the project is. And I'm really glad, Paul, that you're supporting that as well. I think that I know I kind of said it in my introductory portion, but this is where change happens, where we're all sitting here thinking about what is the investment that's needed, what are those opportunities. So use those office hours, call up Kira, ask the question. You don't want to have any, we don't want you to think, oh, I don't understand what my next step is. Just ask it and we'll walk you through.
Great, thank you. That's really helpful feedback. I appreciate it.
Great. I've got 3 in the lineup so far. I know we're coming down to the last 10, 15 minutes. Cole, and then Zach and Tammy. And if you, for some reason, you can't raise your hand, I know that happened to Tammy, feel free to put it in the chat and I'll grab you there. Go ahead, Cole.
Hi, I'm Cole. I am a business fellow at Centropolis. And one of our clients is working out of the UP doing a recycling project to up the recyclability and minimize landfill waste up in the UP. But my question was really based around the geographic impact section. Would you guys like to see a bigger impact maybe outside of the UP down in the Lower Peninsula, or would the UP suffice?
No, I want to answer that one. I like regional projects. I don't think not all recyclable materials need to flow all over the place. It depends on what the project is, and not knowing exactly I don't know what the project is, but I think, especially when it comes to certain materials like organics, glass, it's gonna be regional. You don't need to have a statewide or Midwest focused project. So the answer is yes. UP is fine.
Okay.
And great, by the way. It's not just fine. It's great.
Great, thank you.
Zach, you're up.
Hey everyone, I'm Zach with Nicotech. We're focused on building 100% recycled asphalt plants that also utilize a quite a large quantity of tire waste in the mix design. I know asphalt probably doesn't fall under the goals, but I'm sure tire either falls under this one or different grants you guys have. So I was looking to see if this is the best place or if you have a separate rubber focused one. And then secondary question, if it has to be utilizing rubber from Michigan that first year of operation, or if it can be, shipped in from the current supplier and then set that up years to follow, so it doesn't have to be all at once.
Why don't you take that one, Elisa? Because I know you've got a good answer there.
Well, I don't know that I do.
You've got a great answer.
What great answer are you thinking of, Matt? Um,
So we've dealt with this quite a bit. Sorry to throw you. throw that
Go,
curveball.
you
No,
say what you think, and
the
then I'll
answer
jump
on tires, 100%. We're interested in that. There are additional funding mechanisms as we've talked about, and other grants. I'd be interested in getting the application, and maybe if we don't support it through this, making sure that we get it lined up for our other projects. So also keep that in mind if you're listening to this webinar later. This is a place that we are able to gauge that interest, see what the projects are, and then build out additional tools and resources for you. So don't hesitate to put in an application so that we can evaluate it and then put it in the right spot. As far as your great question about materials and where they come from, think about it from our perspective. If you're building something, let's say an asphalt plant, using it as an example, and you're bringing in out-of-state material and you're making something and it's leaving the state, then that's going to be kind of a political problem for us, because now we're spending a bunch of state dollars helping, I don't know, Indiana, Ohio grow their markets. That said, we know that materials are regional and markets are regional, and we know that setting up that location, you need to get your supply and getting the tap turned on so that the material is flowing. What we want to see is Michigan impact, and you need to articulate how that supports Michigan jobs, Michigan end use, Michigan use, or using and collecting material and diverting it from waste. So the answer to you is going to be, give us the details on why this is a project that we would want to support, and make sure that you're being transparent about the flow of the material and where it's coming from and where you're using it. And that definitely wasn't the great answer that Elisa, because Elisa would have done it much better had she answered that. I've heard her do better than me on that question.
It's unprepared, and that's the source. So left it to him. There are some questions about scrap tire funding and how it might be able to support this in the future. So I wanted to leave it to Matt. But yes, Apply. We're very interested in your solution set. I have got 4 people, and we've got like 6-8 minutes. So Tammy is up next, then Kristen, James, and Barbara. So Tammy.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. So what we're looking at is a furniture mobile repair unit that would go throughout Michigan. We work with commercial industries right now, but looking to expand it. So not a new business, but an expansion of business, and working with that. And I guess my question is listening to all the technology and everything, it's more like bringing back some of the skilled labor to Michigan that has retired throughout it and everything.
Wow.
So
yeah, neat angle there. Yeah, I think that fits with the first 2 questions that we had in this breakout session. I mean, and by the way, I mean, it seems like all the projects that I'm hearing about are right in line with materials circularity, keeping materials out of the waste stream, building new products. So congratulations to all of you for bringing good ideas forward.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate that. I guess my one question is, and I kind of feel guilty doing this, is the repair. I mean, you're keeping it 100% out of the landfill. I mean, am I looking at that correctly from your standpoint? I mean, it's where none of it would be going into it.
Yeah, I mean, are you sounds, but I guess I'm not reading into what you're,
Well, I'm
what
just,
your question
I'm
is.
used to doing like, 10% is still goes into the landfill based on, this kind of thing. If I'm
Yeah.
doing the mobile, would I look at, I mean, do I have to look at the carbon footprint that driving up to the Upper Peninsula includes, or
Yeah,
is
I actually, I mean, you've got me thinking about, you just sent me on this tangent in my mind of the climate impacts of reuse and delaying. And I wonder what kind of stuff we have in the warm model and other calculators that we have. I mean, because frankly, okay, you repair the couch or whatever the piece of furniture is, and then that person, if the system isn't in place to get that, once it breaks again into the landfill, then you just delayed that. So how do you calculate that? I think is we should have another conversation about it because I bet there are some resources out there. There's so many great reuse networks. People smarter than me that are working specifically on reuse and how they calculate that. So yeah, let's stay in touch and see what kind of tools we can get to you.
okay? Thanks, Matt.
Right, Kristen. And then James.
Hi, thanks for hosting this today. And Matt, I believe we actually met at the recycling conference. I'm from Clark Logic. We're a little bit of everything: industrial development, transportation, warehousing, recycling. My couple of questions. One, so talking about the funding for equipment and supplies, does it have to be, can we apply any of that to like equipment that has already been
It's a great
purchased?
question. Let's answer that one first before you answer you ask the next one. No, all of this is all has to be value add, new purchase. The
What about a
grant-
loan on a certain what about a loan on a something that's being
it wouldn't, no, it would not be selected. So what so what we're looking for is to use this little tiny bit of money to leverage the investment in places that it normally wouldn't.
Right.
So we're trying to sort of sweeten the pot, I guess you
Got
would
it.
say. Make it so that you can go to your, whoever, for some of you, go to your boss and say, hey, let's do that project that we haven't been able to do yet. We now have this opportunity. We can go get this money. Oh, if you throw this additional match in there, then we can get it done. But a project that is, covering costs that has already been invested, there's absolutely no way that would get selected.
Understood.
Because it actually gets us into a weird predicament because then we're just subsidizing other expenses that would have been there already. So thanks for that really clear question. Hopefully that was a clear
No,
answer.
that's great to know. Well, and then we're building kind of a recycling center specifically for cardboard, paper, and industrial
Totally.
rolls.
That would, yeah, like we talked about, that would be an eligible expense. So, there's something that we haven't talked too much about but this is a place where some of the private sector investments can be leveraged. So the infrastructure grant is primarily, or is not just primarily, this last round was just for nonprofits and communities, and it left the public or the private sector with those types of investments sort of without an opportunity. But that's okay. That's why we have this. And on the organics investments, both of those are they're gonna kick us out. Shoot. So
Yeah, we're gonna get kicked out. So really quick, James and Barbara. James, maybe one sentence. We can always follow up afterwards, but what you got?
you're muted, so we can't hear you, James. But
of course,
you can comment.
so Kendra and I, so I'm with Razor. We're exploring. Kendra's with Takeout, exploring a solution to actually support venues with a reuse solution in Michigan. Just trying to better understand like how do you do like eligibility for like a partner that potentially is not based in the state but is looking to work in the state. I've also been NextCycle Michigan team before, and just trying to understand eligibility and partnership through that. Yeah.
So we will want the lead applicant to be in the state, the funds to be spent in the state on a project in Michigan.